everybody, this video today is about changing coils and spark plugs on a 2020 through 2022 Shelby GT500. My last track day down at Circle Americas, Coda in Austin, my car had a problem. It sounded like I was running on only a handful of cylinders, got really rich, zero power, real fun on track with a bunch of cars whizzing around me. We'll cut to that video and take a look at that now. There we go. He's cutting across. Well, I have no power. I have like no power. What's going on here? What do you mean? Car sounds weird. I have no power. Like I put my foot down and we'll see how it shakes out here. I'm not sure why I don't have any power. I don't have any warnings. Something's not right. Lamborghini coming up hot. So I got together with my tech guru, Kerry, here locally, and he plugged in his computer, said I was misfiring on cylinders 2 and 3. Talking with Chuck up at Milton Ford, who has one of these cars, he tracks a lot, he said he had to replace all his coils as well. So 5-year powertrain warranty, you think you're covered? Bad news is for whatever reason, the coils are not part of your powertrain warranty. Contacted Jeff at Milton Ford, the parts guru, ordered some new coils, some spark plugs. He sent them down to me. I've got those in a box right here. It's time to tear this sucker apart and install some new coils. Here we go. Take a look at the coils and plugs I got from Milton Ford. Jeff did say the coils are on back order, at least when I went to go get them. So he found them at a couple different dealers and got them shipped to him, and then he shipped them to me. Here are the part numbers. These are OEM coils. And my car only has like 10,500 miles on it, but a lot of those are track miles. It's just a lot of, getting hot, running wide open, and apparently these coils are not quite up to the task when you're thrashing on them repeatedly at the track. All right, taking a look at the engine bay here. Things in the way, obviously, the oil separator. I think I'm going to go ahead and take off my strut tower brace there, which that's the hood prop rod too. I'll support that with a broomstick. And you're supposed to do this with the engine warm, not hot. So once I remove this stuff, I'll open up the doors in the garage here, run the car for a little bit, get the engine warm, and start digging into it. These that hold your degas bottle on are 8mm. And these big ones on the strut tower brace are 15mm. Got the driver's side off, and that one that was between there also 8mm. So you got 8mm and 15mm. All those are off. Over here, I used 2 flathead screwdrivers to pry this guy up. These are going to be 15mm too. We got to take care of push pins. Battery cover, we'll get that here in a second. I'm just going to get this out of the way, and we'll get these nuts off first. Got the 2 passenger side nuts off. Got to undo these little plastic push or screw-in types for the battery cover. Fortunately went all the way through to the floor. I heard it hit. Trying to hold the camera with one hand and use one hand for this limits what I can grab. But get your battery cover out of the way. With the battery cover out of the way, you see we got some bolts underneath here. We also have some push pins. If you look at my VMP lid and supercharger intercooler swap, Apex Predator lid, I've got some real detailed steps on how to remove all this, but basically we got to get underneath there. There's some really hard to access bolts under there that we're going to use some spacers and get under there with a little wrench, and that's the last pieces that are holding us down. Don't forget that it's also your prop rod support, so don't go dropping your hood on your head. These guys here are 13 millimeter, and there's more up underneath here. Using a push pin trim removal tool, just popped out all those push pins across the top there. All right, the fun bolts. You can see I've got a ratcheting box head wrench there. 1, 2, 3, I believe there are back in there. They are 13 millimeter. I've used some wood spacers there. You can use rags, whatever you can jam in there to lift that up to get access. Got all 3 of those bolts out of there. You got to start them with one of these guys. It's ratcheting. I had to put my finger on top because there's no friction on there. Get it up quite a ways and then reach in there with my fingertips and undo them. Pull them out, don't drop them. Time to remove the hood strut there. I've got a broom handle here to hold it. And you gotta go inside here and use a pick tool to pull out this little spring retainer. It doesn't come off, it just slides out. I'm gonna use both hands though so I can catch the hood in case it falls. Pull that out, both top and bottom. Right down here, pull that little spring retainer out and remove the hood strut. So now that I got the hood strut out, supported by the broomstick there, that came out easy peasy. The hood, or the strut tower brace is just sitting there, but the positive battery cable here kind of holds it down. I'm gonna fire up the car, run it, get it warm, not hot. I'm just gonna let it run probably for a handful of minutes. I'll just feel it with my hand down here, see how it's doing. I'll shut it off, disconnect. First I'll disconnect the negative, then the positive, and then get the strut tower brace out. And then next on deck is getting the oil separator out if your car has that. Get it out of the way. Just running the engine, feeling it. When I'm happy with the temp, warm, not hot, shut it down and get cracking. 10 millimeter bolt right there, just loosen these guys up. And disconnect the battery. I take the negative off first and I'll take the positive off. Just because you gotta get the positive off to get that strut tower brace out there. There we go, and now I can lift the strut tower brace out. Put some rags down and protect my nice VMP Apex Predator lid from getting scratched. And then you just lift the strut tower brace up off the bolts there on the top of your strut tower, slides right out. Next up, oil separator. Used the pliers right there, slid the hose clamp aft on this lower hose here, slid it off the nipple. I'm just putting it on the other side. Some of the cars have this extension, some don't. I think the 2022s don't have those. On here, a little blue tab, just push that down. PCV pipe, get that up and out of the way. Those are the connections there. We'll also have to take this one off here. There's a little blue tab, which I'm gonna need both hands and something to get down there in there to release that. This PCV connect right there, there's a little blue tab. I'm touching with this flathead screwdriver right there. I just slid the screwdriver down, pushed it kind of towards the driver's seat, and I was able to lift that up. Once you get the hoses disconnected, the oil separator has this 10 millimeter bolt that's holding it into position there. Once that bolt is loosened, it stays on the separator. The whole separator slides aft. Oh, that guy reconnected itself. So I gotta, I'm just gonna disconnect it here because I'm gonna need to get that coil cover off. So I'll slide my flathead down in there again. The oil separator is out of the way. It's time to take this mount off. If you did this yourself, you know they're a little bit challenging because of this wire harness here. I've got these These are just pushed on there. I'll have to pry those back up. We've got push pin here holding that wire harness in there. Have to pull that back out. Matter of fact, it'd probably be easiest just to take all these out with a push pin tool to get this kind of up and out of the way. And then there's the one down there on a nut, which I'll jam some rags down there so I don't lose that nut. Got these two guys up and out of the way, and then you can see the nuts. I don't know, they may be 8mm, haven't checked them yet. They look pretty small. So those are 8mm, and that one down there, it's a challenge. Let me get my light out of the way here. Let's see. I've got a couple rags actually stuffed down there in case I drop it. I don't want it to go down onto the belly pan. I'm gonna use some universals, maybe one, maybe two, and some extensions with the socket, and that's 8mm as well. Easier to get out than put in. I do remember I've done a few of these. They're a little challenging to get those in there, but I used a universal 8mm right there and then pulled it out with a magnet when it was right at the top. Used a push pin trim tool and popped out this push pin here and these two guys here just to get this wire harness back a little ways to give me some room to work. And this should just lift right out. Kind of hard to do with one hand when you got to move a wire harness, but yeah, this is just sitting there loose. I'll need both hands to lift that out. Passenger side coil cover, these are just kind of pressed on, sitting on there. So again, another project easier with two hands, but the hose actually down there from the oil separator may need to be rotated out of the way. Yeah, just move the stuff that's in the way blocking that and slide it out. I did not need to rotate this elbow here. I just moved this harness up with one hand, slid the coil cover aft a little bit, and then it came right out, no problem. We can see all the coils there. I'm gonna move over to the driver's side before tearing into this the rest of the way. On to the driver's side. The workshop manual calls for disconnecting this crankcase sensor here, but I don't think that's gonna be necessary. So I've already released the little blue tab down there. You can see down there with a regular flathead screwdriver on both ends. Lift up the PCB hose and just set that off to the side. No need to disconnect that. It's not in the way. You got to deal with the degauss bottle, work around that, and be careful you don't scratch your cam or your coil covers. But yeah, I think I'll be able to slide this out. I don't need to disconnect anything else like these guys. Just lift it up and slide it out through the openings. A little bit of a tight squeeze getting this cover out on the driver's side. I angled the butt down, you know, the part closest to the seats, the back of the car. Tilt the front up and just working my way up through the hole. I'm gonna slide it up through this opening here and be careful I don't scratch it on the oil fill level check there. It's working, just requires some maneuvering. There's a push pin right up here, which once I get the cover out, I can show you where that goes. But getting that push pin out creates enough gap. That push pin goes right there, and then I was able to slide the cover out through that hole right there. I'm gonna hit this area on both sides with compressed air from my air compressor just to kind of blow out any debris. Because of that, I taped up all the holes. I just don't want to run any risk of blowing anything into there, but both sides taped up all this, keep any debris from bouncing around and going into those. But fire my compressor and blow out the area, get it all good and clean before I pull out the coils. Make sure you blow out the area so you don't have any debris going down in your spark plug tube. I'll get it good and clean on both sides. Let's talk cylinder numbering. I'll show you a little diagram right now. It starts on the passenger side forward. All right, so this is cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, and then front to back, 5, 6, 7, 8. In my case, Kerry, my tech guru dude, said my car had a stored information of misfires on 2 and 3. So I'm gonna replace them all, not just 2 and 3, get all fresh coils in there, and then I'll hang on to the other 6 as backups if I have any, track side issues there where if I want to swap it out and save a weekend. Time to get the coils out. So we've got these electrical connectors here for each coil. I'm going to slide the locking tab up, and then you have to pinch it and pull the plug out just like that. I'll do that on all 8, and then I'll start swapping them out one by one, the coils. Not pull out all 8, because then you run the risk, of stuff falling down in there. But I'm gonna take all the electrical connectors off and then swap one by one on the coils. Got all the electrical connectors off. We have one 8mm bolt holding down each coil. I'm gonna do, like I said, one at a time. Swap it out, coil and plug, reconnect it, move on to the next one. All right, being careful trying to do this one-handed, so I'll drop this guy down into the engine bay. And this should just lift right out. There we go. One coil. And there is the spark plug down in that hole. If I can shine my light down in there, we can see it down in there. There we go. To get the plugs out, it's a, see if I can get it to focus there. 5/8 inch plug socket. It's got the little rubber boot down in there to hold it. And I'm going to use 2 hands, make sure I put, even pressure straight up, not cranking towards one of the sides to break off the top of the plug. Plug number 1 coming out. It looks good. All right, time to check gaps on the new ones. They should come pre-gapped, but I'll check them and start inserting them one by one. Spark plug gap specification according to the workshop manual is 0.035 to 0.039. I checked the one that came out, that is 0.035. Just check this, using the little slider scale there, if I can get it to focus. Let's see here. There we go. And it was right at 0.035 right here. All right, tightening down spark plugs. Workshop manual calls for 133 inch-pounds. That's a dry setting. I did not use anti-seize. I'm gonna torque these guys down to 133 inch-pounds. Your choice whether you use anti-seize or not, and adjust your numbers accordingly. One new coil. I'm gonna put a little dielectric grease, put it up inside the tube there to make good contact with the spark plug tip. You can also put a little bit on the connector there if you want. Just be careful you don't overdo it. Install the 8mm bolts. Workshop. I'm just doing it by hand. You're not going too crazy on it. Small bolt-on plastic parts there. Just snug it up. Rinse, repeat, going all the way down the passenger side as well as the driver's side. I'm gonna get some, I don't have some right now, but I'm gonna go buy some electrical parts cleaner, spray that up inside the connector. And then I may put a little dielectric grease up in there as well. Driver's side all has real straightforward, easy access, nothing blocking. Well, this project keeps growing. So now I'm getting the battery box out so I can get this piece out. You might be able to use a universal, but it's such a tight angle. I wasn't comfortable really cranking on the spark plug down there with such a sharp angle on the universal. Yeah, fun. You might be able to put just a short extension down in there and get the wrench in there. Yeah. So now, taking the battery box out, flash forward to when I'm reassembling. So just take the battery box out. If you're going this route of removing this to get at that coil, I ended up having to take the battery box out anyways, just to get that panel out. So take the battery out, the battery box out. There's just 3 bolts down at the bottom there. And then you're gonna have way better, easier access here. For this bolt here, that's on the back side, I'm just using a trim tool. I need both hands to do this, but I'm putting pressure on the back side of the ratcheting box head wrench there. Keep the head on the, the wrench on the head, and then ratcheting it with my other hand. That's working really well. All right, battery box is out. space there. You can move this piece towards the battery box and get it out. Is it necessary to take this piece out? Maybe not, but I tell you what, getting at that rear coil and plug is really challenging when it's right up against here. It makes for tight access. So at least that part is removable, and I got a clear shot down in there. All right, on this panel here, you can see the fasteners. There's 3 along the bottom, 2 on the front, call that kind of the front passenger side. There's a couple towards the back, and that fun one to get to on the back side there, which is that hole right there. I put just a little dab of dielectric grease in the ends of all these, and then wiped it clean so it's not a bunch hanging out off the end there, but just so it's down inside those 3 little electrical connections. Push each of the connectors all the way down, seated firmly, and then the locking tab goes on. You'll feel it click. Click again for the locking tabs. All 8. Feeding the driver's side coil cover again, coming down through here on the back side of your dipstick tube, underneath this guy, down at an angle, and you're also working around the PCV valve there, but it slides in, you just gotta wiggle it. Success, and they just press into position. Reinstalled this piece here, got the battery box back in, put the battery in, and those are all 8mm down there. Those guys are all 10mm on that thing. Next up, putting the oil separator back on. I've done a few of these through the years. So you got 2 bolts up top. You slide them on there. Those are 8mm nuts that go on there. There's one down there that's really tough to get to. I've got rag stuff down there, so in case I drop the nut, it doesn't go down underneath the engine. And then little trick here. So you're gonna need a universal 8mm here. I've got my nut taped to the socket. So I'm gonna thread that on there without the socket, or without the nut falling out. And then once it's threaded on there a little bit, I'll pull the socket off, get the tape off, go back in there and tighten it up. That worked. I've got the nut partially threaded on there. I took the socket back off, switched to a deep socket with the universal. And don't forget to get your rags out so you don't have a fire hazard down there. Got the 3 8mm nuts tightened down. I'm not looking up torque specs for all this stuff. I'm just going tight, going by feel. Don't forget your push pins. There's 3 push pins that we took out. Back here, if you still have your hose trays there. And time to mount the oil separator. Took the tape off all the holes and hoses. The bottom of your separator, you got these slots here. They slide right onto those tabs there, all the way back, and then that bolt receiver is for that 10mm bolt there. Tighten it up. Mounted and tightened down that bolt there. We got to reconnect these hoses. The ones with the little blue tabs, you'll hear them click, you feel them click. And then this guy, just got to push it back onto the receiver nipple there and use the pliers to move the hose clamp back on it. Driver side PCV hose, got the tape off both ends again. And I did not disconnect this crankcase sensor. If you disconnected yours, reconnect it. Go till it clicks, give it a little tug. You'll hear it, you'll feel it, they're snug. And my sensor's still connected there. Don't forget to reinsert this push pin right here, and that wraps up the driver's side. Just drop the strut tower brace in place. You can do it by yourself. It helps to have 2 people, but make sure you get it up underneath that trim piece there in the cowl, and then just evenly drop it onto the 2 main bolts there. Redo your hardware. You're gonna have to use your spacers again to get it up underneath there for those 13mm bolts. Big guys are 15mm nuts, and then you have, I think these guys up top here are 8mm if I remember correctly. When installing the strut tower brace again and tightening it down, make sure the car's sitting on the ground, level ground, not up on a lift, not on ramps, not uneven. Just make sure it's all flat and even. Get all the hardware installed, all the nuts, all the bolts loosely before you go tightening any of them. And like I said, you're gonna need your spacers here to get up underneath there with that ratcheting 13 millimeter. Time to tighten everything down. And again, I didn't look up torque specs. I'm just gonna go really tight on these guys and pretty tight on the others. The 15 millimeter nuts, I'm gonna go pretty tight on those. Got the strut tower brace hardware all tightened down. Got the push pins back in place. I have a couple out on purpose because I have a master cylinder cover I use once in a while. I've got my hood strut back in place. Make sure the spring clips are fully seated on both ends, but that doesn't come off. Put the battery cables back on. This positive battery cable retainer clip is back in place. 10 millimeters, just snug those down. I've got my battery cover right over there with the little twist screws. And this project is nearing completion. Well, that's it. I'm going to the track tomorrow to test and make sure that this solves my problem. I'm pretty sure it did. But that's how you change out the coils and the spark plugs on a 2020 through 2022 Shelby GT500. Thanks to Middleton Motorsports, really Middleton Ford, for providing the cost plus 10%. Any parts you need, cost plus 10%, contact Jeff. I got a link above to the video where you can get the discount code as well as his email address. Save you a lot of money. Thanks for watching. See you next time.